I would like to welcome you all. Today, on our agenda, we will discuss what types of incidents will be reported to us. We have a couple special guests this morning. We have some individuals from the Division of Medical Services that would like to provide some information to you guys and ask some questions of you. So we'll go ahead and get started with that portion of our meeting, and Mr. David Jones will kick that part off for us.
Good morning, and I have to apologize first because my boss, Elizabeth Pittman, was due to be in this meeting. She's out of town, and we've got some other folks on our side who were not able to be here today. So you're stuck with my ugly mug, and I'll do my best to hit the points that they wanted to make. And I apologize that they couldn't be here, but I know really the most salient point that they pressed upon me is that we're looking at this rate review. We're sending out some provider surveys, and so just generally it's to give some transparency to that. In setting rate reviews, we need data, and more data is better. And so the more robust response we can get to those surveys, it really helps us, and in turn that helps you. So if you get one of those, please do respond to that. That will really help us and move the ball along much faster, and it also will eliminate, I've seen happen where we get low responses before, and then we use what we have to work up proposal, and then that's met with some frustration, or folks maybe just don't like what they see, and so then we go back into that phase where we circulate a survey again and get some more information, and then we can do it iteratively. That way it just delays things. So but if we can get a robust response to that, that will really help us. And I was checking to see what sort of details we have, and I wasn't able to get my hands on that yet, but I've seen some nods. And so if you've already responded, good. If you haven't, or if you've got one, please do. And so that's really the main point that I wanted to make today. And I'm here, and I'm happy to receive questions. I may not have answers at this moment, but I'm glad to listen and to take notes. And if there's anything I can take away and find out for you, I'm glad to look into that.
Hey, David, is that survey only for PRTFs, or would it be for all residentials?
Well, so that's the question I had. My understanding was that it was, but then I was just talking to one of our assistant directors about that, and he thought that it might be embedded within a broader provider type survey. And so I got my IM open over here. I'm still running down with some other folks to see, because I haven't actually seen a copy of this survey. So to see, what does it look like? How narrow or broad is it? So I can run that down. But if anyone on here has seen the survey and responded, you might be able to answer that too. Oh, Ranisa Adams, written or online. I believe it's an actual document that would come to you via email that you would fill out and then return.
Yeah, David, this is Brad Schliessman with Milliman. We sent out an Excel file asking for data from just the PRTFs. And we've received responses from some, but not all of them. Love to have more if possible. It's not a survey for all residentials, but there may be a subsequent survey for other providers.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for providing us that information.
And one other thing I wanted to say generally is I'm really happy to see this group, and that y'all are, have they been sent out? Does everyone fill out one? We would love it if everyone would fill out one. I don't think we can call it mandatory, but again, the more data and the more response that we get, the better posture we're in to perform the rate review. but I've worked with Tanya Williams and others around the PRTF area and some of the work that we're trying to do here. And I think that this group is, I've heard it mentioned several times. I'm glad to be here with you today and to see you convening. And I think this is really good. So I appreciate you all taking the time and participating. I think this forum will probably has, rendered some value to you already, but I think it will continue to over time, especially with rate review or, any kind of changes that are coming. It will be valuable to have this kind of forum. So kudos.
If I could ask, what type of information is listed in the survey, Brad?
We asked for expense data on sort of personnel and other expenses, and sort of a census of those to whom the PRTFs are providing services. We asked for data over a 3-year period, and then we try to get some information on sort of case mix, both in sort of the census data and in the cost data to the extent possible.
Thank you.
Is overhead part of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, David, do you have any other additional information to provide in reference to these surveys that we want the providers to complete?
Well, I would ask Brad, since I think, Brad, you can probably tell me this. Are you getting those from Trish?
So we've been working with, Paula's been sending those out to the PRTF.
Okay. So Trish and Paula, and they're both out right now. Okay. Where are we in terms of the, because I know that you put them out and you expect them to be out for a period of time, but then you're looking to have enough of a response to roll on to the analysis phase that you do. Where are we in terms of that as far as time frame? Are we?
Yeah, we're beyond the initial response period. We definitely would take more data if it's available. We'd love to have it.
Okay.
And we're starting sort of the analysis phase right now.
Okay. And so I think, one thing we can do, I don't know if it's Adams. I was just looking down, I saw a chat thing pop up, so I'll get that now. But I think I may go back to Paula and Trish and just see, and you can share too, if they're, if readily, who has or hasn't. Maybe we can float those back out again, just to put it at the top of folks' emails or something.
Yeah, I can send you that information via email.
Thank you. Okay, maybe that'll help.
And the licensing unit may also be able to help. We may
Okay.
have some different emails from what you have.
That's a good point.
So if you can send it to Shay or myself, and we'll be able to assist with getting those out. It may be quicker that way.
Yeah, if you meant to. Excellent.
All right. Thank you guys so much for your time this morning.
Thank y'all. I'm gonna just hang out and listen if that's okay.
Okay. So next on our agenda, we want to talk about what types of incidents should be reported to your licensing specialist. More so related to regulation 110.17 that talks about that the agency shall notify the licensing unit the next business day of serious injuries requiring medical treatment, emergency medical treatment, agency vehicle accidents, arrest, elopements, suicide attempts, or deaths, and maintain documentation of the incidents and notification. So that's something that we deal with almost on a daily basis in our unit. And so there's always questions about, well, what's considered a serious incident? What's considered emergency medical treatment. So today we have Michelle Bridges from OCC that's here and going to provide a little information in the type of information that should be reported to us.
Thanks, Shay. Good morning, everyone. As Shay said, my name is Michelle Bridges Bell. I'm attorney for Division Provider Services and also for DCC. And as Shay said, this is something that comes up a lot about whether things should be reported. And I guess what my first best piece of advice would be is that if you have any question at all on whether you should be reporting it, go ahead and call your licensing specialist. That's what they're there for. They're there to help you. So if there's any question at all on whether you should report something, go ahead and call your licensing specialist. If you don't know who that person is, we will be happy to make sure that you do find out exactly who that person is and what their contact information is. I think that obviously some of the reporting requirements are very straightforward, very objective. When there's been an agency vehicle accident, that's very straightforward. When there's been an arrest, that's straightforward. And obviously, if there's a death, those are straightforward. As much as we'd like for our rules to be extremely objective and extremely clear, there really wouldn't be a way for us to provide an exhaustive list to everyone on what could be considered a serious injury. I mean, the possibilities are just absolutely endless on what types of injuries might occur, how they might occur. And it would, like I said, be impossible to create an exhaustive list of what is a serious injury. So the best advice I can give is to use common sense, be logical. The standard does say to report serious injuries requiring emergency medical treatment. I think one of the easiest ways to look at this is that if one of your clients that's in your care has to be taken for any type of emergency medical treatment, an x-ray, and here's an important point that I want you to remember, no matter what the outcome is of that emergency medical treatment, if that emergency medical treatment was sought, more than likely there was a serious injury that occurred that necessitated seeking the emergency medical treatment. So a good rule of thumb is if you have to take someone somewhere for emergency medical treatment, it's more than likely a serious injury. I mean, think about the times that you're taking someone out for emergency medical treatment. They punched through a wall or just a host of different other things that they could have done. But in that moment, as their provider, as their protector, you thought that there was a serious injury enough that they required medical treatment. So use that same logic, go ahead and report it. There'll never be a negative consequence for just reporting it or calling to ask whether you should report it. So I think just using common sense there. If you're taking them in for emergency medical treatment, go ahead and let us know that they're being treated for that. Another thing that's come up is suicide attempts. And again, I wish that there was a hard and fast rule on exactly how to apply this one, but this one, again, the variations on how something like this could happen, it would be impossible to make an exhaustive list. So I guess my best advice from this one is words plus action. If a child is saying that they want to kill themselves, that they want to die, and they make some type of action that would qualify as an attempt, and no matter how slight the action is, go ahead and report it. Because I think what some people are doing is the child is making a suicide attempt, but perhaps staff is intervening very quickly. That child still made a suicide attempt. It's, thank goodness, and we're grateful that staff was able to intervene to stop them so that there's not a death. But take away that the staff intervened, there was still a suicide attempt. So go ahead and let us know about that. And just say suicide attempt, but staff intervened, we took them to acute. And that's what we want to know about. So words plus action, no matter how slight, go ahead and let us know about those. So let's see here.
A question, Michelle, before we
Sure.
go any further.
That's
You
what I was gonna
mentioned
say.
about, and Ebony also has her hand up, but you mentioned about emergency medical treatment and x-rays and that type of thing. What I've learned is that a lot of our providers have x-ray equipment on site. So is that still considered emergency medical treatment that they need to report to us?
Yes, it is, whether it's on site or whether they're taking someone to a different facility. Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead
That
and
was-
report them.
That was my question. Thanks, Shay.
Yeah, I mean, it's very fortunate and that's wonderful that some of the facilities do have that on site. But when the regulations were originally written, there wasn't a designation or any type of differentiation between someone that had one or didn't have X-ray equipment on site. The regulation was made for any type of emergency medical treatment. So whether they have it on site or not, it still needs to be reported. Good question. Thank you. And again, for all the providers, if you ever have a question, the licensing specialists are there to help. Just call and ask. They're more than happy to help you with that. And if you would like, if you have a lot of new staff, perhaps, this would be a good time to get with your licensing specialist to schedule an intent training. I think Shay's going to tell you some more about that. And that's what we're here to help. We're always here to provide additional information and guidance. So if you'd like to schedule something like that for your team, just let us know and we can get that scheduled for you.
Thank you, Michelle. Do any of you, does anyone have any questions? Renissa, I see you. You can go ahead. Go ahead.
So related to emergency medical care, so if a resident, sometimes we'll have a resident who complains about ankle pain. And so the doctor, the APRN, will order that they go get an X-ray. So if they're, you know, is that considered emergency medical care? If we don't even know, I mean, this could be ankle pain related to something that did not occur at the facility.
I think for myself personally, and I'm thinking through this as you presented the question, if it, to me, the difference would be between whether it was an acute pain or whether it was a chronic lingering pain, whether it was something that you had to, they said, my ankle's hurting really bad right now and I can't stand it. And you said, okay, we have to go get you an X-ray. Or if they just said, you know, it's kind of been hurting, but it's really not a big deal. And you said, well, you know, can we take you in maybe on Friday? And to me, that wouldn't be emergency medical treatment if it was something that didn't have to be done in that moment quickly within an hour. If it's something that, well, would it be okay if we schedule an appointment in a few days? And they said, yeah, you know, it's just kind of achy, no big deal. To me, that would differentiate that one. That wouldn't be emergency medical treatment to me. You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions out there related to reporting incidents? Okay.
Sorry, one more. You know, on 17, it talks about keeping proof that we notified. Do we need to do that anymore, being it's on ELS?
I would say no, as long as you're reporting your incidents in ELS and you get some type of response from your licensing specialist, then you would not need to, I would keep a log because that system is for us. If another agency may come in and ask you for that information, then you would have to provide it for them.
Is that printable?
Is what printable?
When I enter it, sorry for all the questions.
Oh, that's okay.
When I enter it into ELS, which I love, by the way, am I able to print what I entered so I'm not having to do double duty to keep a copy of it?
Let me check while we're on the call and I'll get back with you. If I don't have an answer for you during this meeting, I'll get you an answer today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, Michelle, for being available to answer questions this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So we are going to move on to the next part of our meeting. And I want to talk to you guys about when you receive notice about prohibited applicants and what you should do when you're notified. So when we reach out to when the licensing specialist reaches out to providers to say, hey, Johnny Bill is not eligible to work because of something dealing with the background. So what we expect from the providers is to contact that applicant and make them aware of what information they have received from the background check unit. By the time we notify you that that person is ineligible, the applicant has already received a letter. Cynthia Smith from the regulatory check unit has already reached out to the applicant and given them the opportunity to respond. So like by the time you get that information, it is time for you to reach out to that person and let them know that if they need to go, they cannot work until they have reached out to Cynthia Smith. If they have some information to provide to Cynthia Smith or to the regulatory check unit, she will reach back out and let us know if that person is eligible. Unless you receive something saying that that person is eligible, then they should not be working unless you have a corrective action agreement with your licensing specialist and it has been approved. Does anyone have any questions about that? I just wanted to, go back over that. I know we've talked about that in the past, but we would like to get a response from you guys saying this applicant was either terminated, this applicant has been sent home, something stating that the applicant, what your plan is with that applicant. If the applicant brings information to you for you to send back in to Cynthia Smith, that is fine. But again, until we get it stating that the applicant is eligible to work, then they should not be working unless you have a corrective action agreement with the with your specialist and from the supervisor. Chelsea, do you have anything else to add to that?
The only other thing that I had to add to that while I was sitting here thinking about it is if you do decide that you're going to you want to try to figure out some more information and you are sending the staff home until they can get in contact with Cynthia and you can get more information. When you do finally have a decision after that and you have decided, okay, we're going to move forward with termination, or we want to take this person to board, or they have talked to Cynthia and this is the result of that conversation. If you could, would you please let us know in an email where it's at with that? Because we're just going to have it marked off over here and we're going to have to try to get back with you guys to figure out what's the status of that person after you sent them home. Did you bring them back? Did you terminate? What's going on? So we're trying to polish up that process a little bit to make sure that we can track those as best as possible.
I had one this morning for one of my residentials. And so they were asking me if I had any detailed information on why they were in ineligible status. So the regulatory unit does not provide that information for us. And so it just informed them to have that person to reach out to Miss Cynthia Smith, and maybe she can kind of guide them from there, but we do not have that information to provide. Like we cannot provide that information. And then Shay and Chelsea, like, is there a time frame? Like, are you giving them 24 hours or 48 hours to get that information back to you all?
I would like that information sent back to us no later than 48 hours.
Okay.
And yes, you're right. The background check unit they don't provide us that information. And as for you, as you guys being the provider, they're not supposed to provide that information to you. They can only discuss whatever they see with the applicant. So that's why the background check unit sends out a letter to the applicant first. Another thing related to background checks, but not related to prohibited applicants. The background check unit is working to add a drop-down box on the consent form when you submit background checks. That drop-down box, you will need to add your license number, and that will help all of us to be able to identify which agency is submitting background checks, because sometimes there is a question, there may be a different address or some type of information that the background check unit is missing. So probably starting next week, be on the lookout for an additional drop-down box on that consent form in which you can add your license number. And now we are going to move on to talk about the enterprise licensing system. I think all of you have had a chance to get in and play around a little bit, hopefully, make some changes or submit some type of information in the system. So now is that time. So I'll let Chelsea Vardell take over. I want you guys, she's going to ask, this is going to be like an open time to just ask questions, give us your concerns, give us your feedback on what you're experiencing with ELS.
Okay, let me get my pen ready. I want to make sure that I get any concerns or anything noted down, because this is the time right now with ELS changing, and we're kind of tweaking things that we've noticed. Right now is really the time. If you see anything that could be improved or make things a little bit easier for you, things that you like about it, things that are not working for you, now is the time to talk about it. So just any questions that I can help with.
Well, that sounds like everybody's got it
I
under
know.
control. They know how to enter all their information, change different things in it.
That that sounds amazing.
So Nessa, I noticed you said you loved it. Can you tell some of the people what some of the things that you really do like about it? Because we meet with ELS people 2 to 3 times a week, and we talk to them about to make it smoother. These are some glitches, So can you tell some of the great things you like about it? Because we love to hear that it's going well.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know. It just seems quicker and easier for me to submit an incident report. It's organized to where I don't have to go to my system to see all the different, whether again, it's incident reports submitted. So I don't know, it just seems really easy for me. I do have one thing that I would ask for, but it's like Christmas presents. I don't always get what I asked for. So, but sometimes when we have a different state or a different regulatory entity, they want proof that our facility status is regular, which I can print it from ELS, but it doesn't have a date on it. And so if we had a date, then I could say as of 9/15, we have a regular license. So.
And if Renissa, at any time, if a facility is reaching out to you guys, you can always give them your licensing specialist email address, and we can provide that information to them as well.
Okay.
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear things are going so well with ELS. It's very, very promising. I know it has been a lot quicker on our end as well, to be able to search for things and look up the information that we need as on the specialist side as well. Now, regarding the incident reports and with the incident reports, when you're submitting them, we have changed some of the things that we are requesting a few times recently, where we've been adding a few items to that list. So I just wanted to touch base on that real quick with you guys, because that's one of the things that we're seeing on our side is a lot of the times our incident reports are coming in right now. There's been a lot of changes. So when we get an incident report, sometimes it doesn't have all of the information that we're looking for. So that starts the emails and phone calls back and forth. And we're hoping to eliminate that as much as possible. So if we could get all required information in the original report that you submit in ELS, that would help us tremendously. So just to touch base on those real quick, those things that we need is the name of the child or names, which is first and last, that date of birth, their guardianship status. So if they're private placement or foster care, and if they're foster care, what state? We don't need names of guardians, just to be clear, just private placement or foster care. If the police were called to the incident, a brief description of the incident, and any response that the agency had to it. So if like we were talking about earlier, if a kiddo had hurt their foot playing basketball and it swelled up and you had to take them to get an x-ray because that's an emergency, it's something that's happening right now. What was your response under that? So the kiddo hurt his foot is in the description. And then we have the agency response was they were assessed by the nurse. It was determined to take them for an x-ray for follow-up. And the results of the x-rays showed that there was no fracture or dislocation. So what's your response to it? So that kind of gives us all the information that we're going to be looking for there, what you guys are doing, the description, and all the information about the kiddo that we need. Now, when it's a maltreatment, sorry, Renessa, I seen you just unmuted for a second. Do you have a question before I move on? Okay.
I was just going to ask, what kind of things would I put under the comment section?
Under the comment section?
Yeah, where it asks for reporter information, so I would put in my name, my role, and then it has a comment section.
I'm not sure if we've even utilized that comment
Okay.
section yet. Because on our end, we can't see what you guys are looking at right now. Things are kind of getting tweaked on the provider side as well to kind of polish it up for you guys. And our training environment doesn't show exactly what you guys are seeing as the changes are occurring. Shay, do you have any information about the comment section?
No, I don't. I'm sorry, guys. Chelsea, what was the question? I lost all sound, so I couldn't hear any.
Oh, she had said that when she's submitting a PRI into ELS, after, you have the report description and she has the place where she can put her name as the reporter. Under that, there's a box that says comments section. And she was wanting to know if or what information could be put in there.
Any type of information, any additional information can be added to that comment box, because again, the information that's sent in, it's not public knowledge. It's just from you all to us. So that information does not go any further than the form that you submitted on.
Perfect. So the other part of this is if it's a maltreatment. So all the same information that I just discussed would still be needed for a maltreatment. And we'd also need the interim corrective action for the staff. So what are you guys doing? Are you guys sending them home? Were they terminated? What has happened with that staff member? And we also need the referral number for that maltreatment report if you have it. Because sometimes an investigator will show up and tell you that there's a report, but you guys didn't know. So you don't have that referral number always. So if you don't have it, it's okay. But we still will need that interim corrective action if there's a named staff member. Does anybody have any questions about the items I said we needed in a incident report? Okay, sounds good. All right, Shay, well, I'll hand it back over to you then, unless you have anything else you want me to talk about with the ELS.
Ms. Copeland, I think you had a question when we first started. We were doing a question and answers about ELS. Did we answer your question?
No, I did have a question. Will we be able to add a print feature for like facility visits as well as incident reports?
It's a good question. I think that we can take note of that and definitely present it to the team to see if that's something we can have added for you guys.
Thank you.
This is Craig Gammon from Methodist. Sorry to interrupt. Is there any update on when the system is going to be expanded? We're still locked at, I believe, 2 persons per facility. And sometimes that's okay, and sometimes that's a little trickier. So any update on when that might change?
We have not gotten an update on when that will change. If at this point in time right now, if you need to add someone else to your list, you will have to reach out to, let's reach out to Chelsea Vardell, email her, and she can get that person added. What we've determined is the way that they have it set is that the people have to be titled as an administrator or a director in order to have access to input information into ELS. So you may see some of your staff listed as administrators or directors, even though they're not, just so they can perform the duties that you need them to do with ELS.
Thanks. Yeah, we had that. We just were hoping that it might be expanded. I mean, the understanding was the plan was for that to be expanded and self-management of people enrolled and pulled out, but it just didn't roll out the way everyone thought it would.
That is correct. So that is something that we have taken back to the team, and they are working on that.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
You're welcome. So if there are no further questions, that is pretty much all of the things that I wanted to cover. I did want to talk about, as Michelle Bell Bridges mentioned, about if you guys have lots of new staff and if you are interested in having an intent training with your agency, please reach out to your specialist and we will work and look at your schedules and their schedules and coordinate a time to conduct those trainings with you all. And our so we want to make sure that everyone is able to have a better understanding of the licensing regulations, and if they have questions, because we know that sometimes staff are working and it may be at night or something, and they may have a question about something that they're doing, and there's not necessarily someone there to interpret that regulation for them. So we want to be open to make sure that we can answer questions for them. Our next Child Welfare Agency Review Board meeting will be on October 26th. If you guys have any information that needs to go before the board, that the deadline to submit that information is October 3rd in order for them to be placed on the October 26th agenda. And thank you guys for your time today, and I'll let you have some of it back, you guys. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.